what game do you play?
EverQuest I, original.
And what's your name?
James.
James, nice to meet you. So, you play EverQuest I. How long have you been playing it?
11 years since the day it came out.
Wow, that's quite an accomplishment.
I've played EverQuest II as well. I took a respite from EQ1 for about 3 years and played EverQuest II. And then we came back to EverQuest I because EQ2 was just going down a path that was ridiculous. I'm just like, let me go back to the original. It's better constructed.
So over the past 11 years, you must have made some kind of friendships along the way.
You're looking at most of them.
So are you a guild? Are you a guild?
Yes, Guild of Destruction.
Guild Destruction.
From the Tunare Server. Guild of Destruction from the Tunare Server.
Yeah, these two I met. I met these two on EverQuest II. They were in the guild that I ran on EverQuest II. And then when I went back to EQ1, I yanked them to try EQ1, and they got hooked on EQ1 now, and now we're all over in Guild of Destruction, you know, having a good time.
That's awesome.
So, the friendships that you get in this game are
remarkable.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah, last 10 years.
We have a couple of people who couldn't make it here that also hang out with us, but they were too busy to get here.
So one thing I keep hearing when I'm interviewing EverQuest players is that people like to get married.
Yes.
Is that correct for you guys?
I actually am married in game, and the actual zones that they've got for the in-game marriages, they have done a lot of work on, and I'm impressed. It's just like a normal zone, and you have your light side and your dark side. Basically, you can have a good or an evil wedding, but you have to form up in a raid to actually get into the marriage instance. It requires a raid format, but once you get inside, you can actually contact a GM. The GM performed my wedding. The GM provided little party gifts.
I've never experienced a wedding in the game.
I got married. Yeah, Warbucks way back.
My friend Warbucks here got married way back in our first tenure in EverQuest I, and we had to do it all manually. There wasn't any of this packages and stuff.
Right.
We got married in the EverQuest, right at the old temple or whatever. Yeah, I got pictures to prove.
Yeah, we had somebody go tag all those ice giants and kite them over, and everybody clicked all their booze, so everybody was drunk and you couldn't see, attacking ice giants. It was too funny. That was our wedding reception.
My name is Kristen, but most people know me as Aurelius from the Bazaar, as the book Fiend, Queen, Nut, whatever you want to say. The only thing I can say about EQ2, I don't want to get into the politics of where the direction is going, but I can say that we need more books, definitely, because we don't have enough of them.
Doing a petition and the name will pop up and you quickly look at it and go no, yes, no. As soon as you hit no, it goes straight into a filter. And you'd oftentimes be wrong. We were wrong because we were busy with something else, doing whatever, you'd hit the wrong button. And so things like missed cats, you're absolutely right, there's no reason that should have got blocked. Oftentimes too, someone has taken that name, but it won't tell you that it's already taken. It means someone has deleted it, perhaps, but it's still got stuck somewhere in a system, somewhere. It's a terrible way to describe it. As I describe it, I'm like, oh, but it's the truth. It's got stuck in something somewhere, and we need to sort of go through that whole filter and say, what's wrong with this, and let's move that out. That's just going to take ever such a lot of time, because it's built up over the 10 years of EverQuest life, and but that's what it is. But if you ever get something like that, and you think, well, that's whatever, send in a petition and Ian's team will have a look at it for you and see if they can pull it out at that time or try to get round it. So just do that.
We actually have
a policy, and this is one of those services that is a courtesy service that we're trying to offer to you guys, is that we know that there are characters in EQ2 that have been created 5 years ago, are on an account that we possibly played for 2 months, and has a name that you really, really want. You can petition and say, hey, I really would like this name. Is it available? And we're actually dependent, if it's not a level 50 or above, and if this account has been inactive for more than a couple of years, we have a certain set of rules that we apply that will actually give you that name. We say, you know what, you are a loyal customer to us. This person has not played for 3, 4, 5 years. We'll give that player name an X, and we'll give you the opportunity to get that name through. But it is, like Sharon said, it will be stuck in the filter, and we need to do a command in game to get it unstuck for you, and then you can just use that name again. So it is really a matter of technicality, that it is more unwillingness to assist you. It is possible, Mrs. Gat, I see no problem with that name.
Music, I guess, would be DMX or Black Eyed Peas.
Very cool.
I have a couple of questions. First, regarding putting in tickets and the response we get from the GM. Kind of goes with what the other guy was saying earlier, but in this instance, this is regarding like an in-game mechanic that wasn't working, or we didn't think it was working as intended. We researched it. The GM said this mechanic is completely random. Anything you put in, it's like a crafting system. Anything you put into it will be completely random. And we researched it, the community did, found the answer, and then the GM, and then I updated the ticket, and GM just responds, I'm glad you're able to figure it out on your own. How do we follow up with you guys to be sure these GMs know what they're talking about and aren't giving out more misinformation to newer players that are trying to do the same thing and just get told, no, you're wrong, it's just going to be random regardless of what you do?
What game do you play? Did you say Star Wars? Okay. So there's no one on the panel that works on Star Wars Galaxies, but this would apply, as you said, to any game where you feel that a GM has given you an incorrect response, or if a GM you found is unprofessional or rude, or any of the things that you can think of. Just as with any service industry, ask to speak to a supervisor. I would say one thing to you, and this is just as people, you will get a lot further with being polite and calm, right? It's anywhere, if you go into a restaurant, you'll get much further if you're polite and calm. That's all you need to do, is just say, may I speak to a supervisor? And we will always escalate that for you to a supervisor. And if you are not satisfied with a supervisor's answer, you can ask to speak to a manager. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and it kind of a second question that ties into.
Sure.
There's several like game mechanic bugs that have been around 2 to 3 years with like the Beast system in Star Wars, and we try and submit tickets every time it happens to see you guys have a way to track it. But we don't have any kind of mechanic to know if that stuff's getting reprioritized, if it's getting looked at or anything like that. Is there anything that we're not aware of that we can follow through on?
No, and from a customer service standpoint, you're asking a question that's probably better served asking of development. You know, customer service are not programmers, coders, designers, everything that everybody wants us to be, really. But we're not that smart. And so, well, some of us. So it's a really good question, and it's one that we get all the time. I know as being gamers, all of us ourselves, there's nothing more frustrating than when you run across a bug inside the game. And the way we try to look at it is, if you buy a car and a part breaks on it, you can still use the car, but a part's broken, and you call customer service and they say, yeah, we know about it, as soon as they fix it, then they'll do whatever, you know, we'll call you in a couple of months. But you're like, you know, I really need that part to be able to do a certain thing that it doesn't make my car go as fast or whatever. The correct response, I think, is to say, you know what, that's not your fault, let us fix that right away, and the part where it's broken, we'll work on in the background and figure out. But we need to get you past whatever it's that's holding up. You shouldn't be the ones that see that issue or are held back because of that issue. The only time it's difficult for that to apply is when you play a game like EQ, EQ2, Star Wars, Vanguard. If you're right on the high end and something happens, we then have to assess risk versus reward, and we have to think about the rest of the community. So if they've gone and done a 24-man raid and they tried it, you know, 10 times until they succeeded, and something in it breaks, when you go to, do we just update your quest for you? So that kind of thing we've got to think about. But in the lower end, we'll always push you past whatever it is that's stopping you. Does that answer your second question?
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic. And please come help yourself to a gift. I'm going to ask that lady behind you first, if you don't mind.
A little confusing. Happy. Is there anything that can be
What
done?
game do you play?
I play EQ2, Star Wars Galaxies. I used to play Matrix Online, but people took it from me.
We did. They're terrible.
It's okay. It was kind of dead.
And what music do you listen to when you play?
If I'm soloing, generally zone music. If I'm in a group or a raid, I'm getting on TeamSpeak. With entering an issue of some kind, generally, especially noticeable in EQ Live, is when you go to enter it, they've got all these mandatory fields. And if I'm entering something about a game mechanic, do you really need to know my guild name? And if you hit the enter button and you've skipped one of these fields, your whole form disappears and you have to start from square one. It's really frustrating. Especially when, I'm a QA engineer in the financial industry, so I enter a very detailed bug report with recipe reviews, the whole 9 yards. That's a lot of work to keep re-entering to volunteer.
And don't even dare to try to hit the back button.
Oh God, no!
I know. I'll be the first to admit that it happened to me more than once because I like to play sneaky chopper with my GMs. They don't always realize that it's me. And if I get a really bad answer, it's a bad day for them. Anyway.
They're bad when they do a bad job.
But yeah, we are aware, and it's one of the many feedback that we're getting, and a little bit on feedback. If you've submitted petitions, more than likely after the petition has been closed, whether it was by you, customer service, or after 72 hours, you get sent a survey from us. And we're asking you, please let us know how we're doing. And it also has a note field, and in that note field, this is what we get a lot, is where the petition system overall is being perceived as convoluted. It takes too long to submit a petition, but honestly, there has to be a fine balance to, I would almost say, make it a little difficult for you to submit a petition and making it easy to submit a petition. If we make it too easy to hit that button, send out that petition, we will get a lot of petitions that I would say clog the queue, that are questions that could be answered in general chat rather than by a GM, and that would take away valuable time from customer service to actually get to tickets that really needs our help. I don't know how it is for EQ. I know EQ2 only, we have a system that populates the fields like your name and your server, and it should submit with optional fields. I don't get guild names in it, so I don't know, but Sharon is making notes. We definitely can take a look at the interface for EverQuest. What we require, what is required to put in before you can submit. But all in all,
if there's a mistake, instead of working it out.
yeah, yeah, because it happened to me that I go submit and then it says, oh, there's something missing, and then when you hit the back button, if you are lucky to locate it and find it, then everything is gone. So yeah, I definitely share that frustration, and it is a work in progress. We're looking at it. I honestly cannot tell you when we will fix it. I think by the sound of it, one of the easiest fixes is the mandatory fields that we can make optional. As far as and it also requires, and be mindful of that, it requires the work of our developers for the in-game part of it. It's not just popping up a browser for some of these games. It's actually integrated in the game, so there might be some back-end work there as well.
Sony.